Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine. Let's go! Surprise, surprise, Putin said that Zelensky is not real president of Ukraine, he is illegal, illegitimate and it's impossible to sign any sort of the agreement with Zelensky. So Putin said about it himself openly during the short interview in his car. I'm gonna put subtitles somewhere.
Zelensky говорит, что с ним можно вести переговоры. Ну, дает понять, с ним можно вести переговоры, на ваш взгляд?
Вести переговоры можно с кем угодно, только в силу своей нелегитимности он не имеет права ничего подписывать. Но если он хочет принимать участие в переговорах, я выделю таких людей, которые будут с ним эти переговоры вести, пожалуйста.
So we can negotiate with Zelensky and I'll give the order to some of the people to speak with Zelensky if he wants to. And again, Putin said that Zelensky has no right of signature.
Ну, да, если сейчас мы начнем вести переговоры, то они будут нелегитимны. Здесь есть, правда, я об этом не говорю, не говорил, скажу, есть, правда, проблема. Почему? Потому что когда, значит, нынешний глава режима, так сегодня только его можно называть, подписывал этот указ, он был легитимным президентом относительно. А теперь-то он не может его отменить, потому что он нелегитимный. Вот фишка-то в чем.
And here Putin says that even negotiations with the Ukraine would not be legitimate. And after it, do you really think that he wants to stop the war in Ukraine? He wants negotiations and so on? No, this bastard wants to continue the war. Putin himself is kind of comfortable in this new environment. He sees himself as the new Tsar of the Russian Empire. And without the war, I don't know if Putin will continue to be even a president of Russia, because why should Russians have him as a leader with all of those losses for nothing? So he also afraid to lose the power and the revenge of the part of the Russian elite, because they want to return what they've lost. And from the next dialogue, I promise you it will be the last one, but it's important to understand for us what Putin thinks, guys, because it reflects the Russian intentions in Ukraine. So here Putin said that the war will not continue for a long time, maybe a few months, if the military support of Ukraine stops. So let's listen to him.
Они могут существовать, они месяц не просуществуют, если прекратятся деньги и в широком смысле говоря патроны. Все закончится через месяц, полтора-два. В этом смысле суверенитет Украины, он почти нулевой.
And the sovereignty of Russia is huge, with all of the military support from North Korea. So Putin really thought before that Donald Trump might stop the military support of Ukraine, and I think that now Russian elite, like pro-Putin's elite FSB, well, they are in panic, because weapons go to Ukraine as before. So yeah guys, unfortunately Russia will continue its war against Ukraine because of this Putin prick and his circle. But you know guys, I expect that for Russians it will not be an easy walk, especially this year, after some of the decisions were made in Ukrainian military and Ukrainian government. Today, finally, officially, Zelensky announced some of the military reforms. We were all screaming about it for many years since the war had started, and finally we have some of the outcome and we see the proper decisions made in Ukrainian army. So I expect the situation on the front lines to be better. Well, today Zelensky announced the formation of the military corps units that will be much larger compared to brigades or regiments. Well, at least I see it like that. Still, those are not divisions or armies like in Russian Federation, but brigade regiment idea doesn't work properly. It is understandable already. And also, as I told you yesterday, Commander Drapati is now controlling entire front lines except Kursk region, maybe Kharkiv, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, everything of that is for Drapati now. And he's really competent. However, at the same time, he's not magician or something, so Ukraine will withdraw the forces. Unfortunately for now, I expected the entire 2025, and later on it would depend on the military support of Ukraine, whether Ukraine gets weaponry or not from the United States, the main ally of Ukraine. Why do I think that the next year Ukraine might bring the situation in its favor? Because we witness huge crisis inside the Russian army. First of all, with vehicles, Russia loses lots of those, and here I shared this video on my Rumble channel because there's less censorship. It basically shows the Ukrainian Leopard 2A4 tank operation against the Russian convoy, What can I say? There is nothing left from the convoy. The image is really interesting. I also published it on my Telegram channel. Guys, sorry I cannot share it here on YouTube, because after all it fits me with its monetization sometimes, but the main support obviously I have from you, my friends, from your kind support on Patreon. And you motivate me to film more on other channels, to create different projects on different social media. But there are some of the videos that I can share with you showing the deep crisis in the Russian army. This was filmed somewhere in Krasnoyarsk. Russia delivers civilian vehicles to the front lines. Here is a Russian Kamaz truck, it carries Zil truck, and inside there is Lada. And also it tolls Ural truck, and we have lots of those stories here. Crazy. Our friends, together with Krasnoyarsk governor and the local mayor, sent to the front line 17 units of the vehicles. Was patriot, lots of the vehicles indeed. Well, those are good for supplies, but sometimes Russia attacks using the same vehicles, and it's crazy. So I guess it's the freaking second army in the world fighting using those vehicles. Yeah, they also have tanks, BMPs, but they're running low on that. Right, guys, interesting graph here. It shows the weekly Russian losses of the vehicles. Depends on vehicle type. So yellow here is the civilian type of the vehicle which Russia uses for supplies and also sometimes for attacks. And here you can see a dramatic surge at the end of the 2024. And what this color? Well, those are trucks, and here Ladas, Nivas, and so on. Bukhanka as well. As you can see, based on the losses, Russia is switching to the civilian type of the vehicles, but at the very beginning of the war it wasn't like that at all. It is one more evidence for us that Russia is in lack of the armored vehicles. And if this war really continues for extensive period of time, and I think it will be like that, and if Ukraine gets enough military support, Russia would obviously struggle. So Putin, he is sure that he is in dominant position, but everything might change really quickly. And it seems like Russians start to understand their huge problem with the armored vehicles. For example, they use a lot of MTL, but even those they lose a lot. MTLB is the light armored towing vehicle able to carry some of the infantry inside. So they modernize the vehicles, building some of the drone protection. As the Russian Z military bloggers say, that they're forced to advance right to Ukrainian positions using those light armored vehicles because the Russian military production is unable to produce enough BMPs and other attack vehicles to compensate the losses. Also, the stockpiles are mainly exhausted, and the vehicles which are still remain for the long-term storage are just in unacceptable state. It means that they're rusty and you cannot use those without significant maintenance. Now the strategy of our army, so the Russian army, is to go forward as fast as possible using BTRs, BMPs, MTLBs and everything possible, and to take the defense in a tree line or in Ukrainian positions. That's why the vehicles simply do not live for a long time. And because of the bad weather conditions and dirt, the caterpillars are needed, so MTLB, BMP or tanks are the tools for advancement, but we are in lack of everything of that. Also, there is no understanding of this problem from our main military command. For years and years, Russian Defense Ministry and military production is unable to produce the analog of M113 BTR, and that's why we're basically in lack of the vehicles able to move fast on the front lines and which have enough armor. And because of everything of that, the MTLB is the only solution, but it is not made for the purpose because it has very light armor. There is no mine protection, there is no comfort of the infantry inside, and in most of the cases during the assault missions our infantry is not located inside the vehicle but just under the drone protection. It allows our soldiers to evacuate vehicle if it is hit by the FPV, and it saves more lives. So Soviet Union made this versatile vehicle which is bad in everything. And again they blame their own generals, so the management of the Ministry of Defense is still in lack of the understanding of this problem, and all of the engineering jobs, maintenance of the vehicles, and converting those to the hangar vehicles is mostly made by the soldiers themselves on the front lines. So this is basically initiative of the Russian soldiers. It is not even planned by the Russian ministry to attack on those vehicles. No, it's the local commanders, who in a very rare cases care about their life force, but mainly no. And just for you to understand about this vehicle, it was designed in 1950s. And it is многоцелевой тягач, so multi-purpose towing vehicle, light armor vehicle. Also, by the way, it's fully amphibious, but it's just useless in most of the cases if we speak about the Ukrainian front lines. And because the armor is really light, usually a single FPV drone is okay to penetrate the vehicle even from the front. So probably the worst vehicle to carry infantry, obviously after Bukhanka, which doesn't have the armor at all. A new vehicle was presented to Putin. Oh my god, what is that? That's the new Lada with everything made in China. Just look how door open here. Just look. Here we pull, it closes, we pull it again. So inside it was so lovely that Putin hesitated even to sit there, not even speaking about starting the motor. Yeah, the vehicle is good. It's fine. Fuck. Reminds me in this case then Putin tried to test Lada Granta and he decided to sit there and start the engine just to look at this circus. Finally, freaking finally. But the video here was edited and cut. Actually, Putin tried to start the vehicle for a much longer time. My friends, by the way, if you want to support the job that I do here on YouTube, you may always do it on my Patreon page. You may find it in the video description just below. Well guys, thank you so much for your efforts and your kind support. So Ukraine needs more and more weaponry from our allies and especially from the United States. We have some of the good news that Europe is cautiously optimistic about Trump's Ukraine comments, especially after Donald Trump said that they're gonna apply probably more sanctions on Russia. That's encouraging, really. And I hope that it will be like that. Kremlin elite is in shock now. They expected sanctions against Ukraine, not Russia. We supported Donald Trump on his election campaign. We pay for the bots on X. Why Trump's behavior is different? He should love Putin because we want him to do our business against Ukraine, but Trump will not do if something against him personally. And if he plays on the Russian side, he would obviously lose many of the points. Trump has American interest first of all. By the way, unlike Elon Musk, yes, Trump first of all put his own interest and only after that America, but in general it's still more or less fine. I may sound like Trump's advocate here, but so far for Ukraine especially we have no bad news. Well, some of the support was cancelled for the next 90 days, but it is not the military support. So actually it is much better than I expected. But you know guys, after all, it seems like Donald Trump is unable to handle the oil prices to make them critically lower for Russia. We have the news about it, so Saudi Arabia and other OPEC countries, they do not expect to pump more oil. They're quite satisfied with the current price, they just make money. By the way, back in 2022, Joe Biden also called Saudis to pump more and more, but no one listened to him, and it seems like Saudis are also not okay with Trump's proposal. But at the same time, Russia still has an oil crisis. Reuters and some of the other media write that Russian oil trade to China, India stalls as sanctions drive up shipping costs. Insurance companies, navigation companies, the third-party agents refuse to work with the Russian shadow fleet. And for us, those are the awesome news. At least temporary, it's like that. So for this winter time, Russia has no extra funds to invest into their military production. And winter time is very important, because if you want to build your summer campaign from your attacks, from your superiority over the enemy, you should invest more into your army during the winter time. That's why the last year wasn't so successful for Ukraine, because the military support stalled in the Congress of the United States. And for Russia, well, it might stall because of this. So sometimes even without low oil prices, Russian oil industry may struggle, but I'm sure that they're working on solution together with China and India, like how to bypass those sanctions, how to create many of the single-day companies that would not care about their reputation and continue business as usual. But after all, we see that United States does have the influence on China and India. On India, I think more. But China's economy is also really dependent on the United States. So nowadays, guys, my main concern about Donald Trump is obviously Ukraine, because I'm Ukrainian, and Donald Trump still may change his opinion. For today, it's more or less okay, but I'm quite concerned about the imperialistic ambitions of Donald Trump, for example, towards Denmark or Greenland, which is the part of Denmark. And you know, the French officials already told that they can send their forces to protect Greenland. And it's crazy that there is the threat to Greenland from the biggest country, democratic country, the United States of America. Guys, what is happening? But you know, France is the part of the European Union and Denmark too, so France may protect its neighbor. Actually, it was the official proposal from France towards Denmark to deploy the French forces, but Denmark is not yet convinced about that proposal. Denmark, come on, you cannot defend that island alone against the United States of America. Guys, what I am speaking about, it's absolute no... Like 1 year ago, who would have thought about it? 3 years ago, who would have thought about Russia fighting in Ukraine with North Koreans? This world is crazy. We should expect absolutely unexpected things, my friends. Yeah, I just hope that everything will be settled peacefully elsewhere, especially between our allies. What we need to do, we need to push dictators like Iran, North Korea, and Russia especially, because it's the most aggressive country nowadays. China, well, it's hard to push without destroying United States economy, because most of the production is out there for the United States market. Say during the recent interview that France has discussed with Denmark the possibility of deploying troops to Greenland in response to several threats by the United States President Donald Trump. Thought it was not the Denmark wish to proceed with the idea. Barrett stated that if Denmark calls for help, France will be there. Several European countries also considering deploying troops to Greenland. But after all, it's the Denmark prerogative whether they want to call for the military support or not. And by the way, they want to invest more into their military. Before they said about $1.5 billion. Now they speak about 2.5 to protect Greenland against the United States. Yeah. Well, guys, if Trump starts the special military operation in Greenland, there will be almost no any change between him and Putin. So hopefully he will not do this step. Kind of the interesting thing we have around the Ukrainian defense minister. The National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine registered a special case against the Ukrainian defense minister Umerov. They accuse him for abuse of power, which led to very bad circumstances. NABU is National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine. They have even their X here. It is more or less independent organization, however, there is some of the information that it belongs basically to the United States because they have the financial support from it. I don't know whether it's true or not, but definitely it doesn't belong to the president's administration or so on. So NABU opened a criminal investigation into possible abuse of power by Defense Minister Umerov. The case concerns the refusal to extend the contract with the head of the defense production plant and the recall of the members of the supervisory board. So after all, it's the criminal investigation. I wonder why they didn't open the same case against the previous defense minister, Reznikov, who... I don't know where is he. Hiding somewhere probably. There is the informational silence about him. Just to remind you how he looks, and he was definitely involved into corruption allegations and into corruption schemes which were not investigated correctly. So again, we have to speak about some of the corruption in Ukraine, and I'm kind of happy that National Anti-Corruption Bureau started the case against the Ukrainian defense minister. At least investigation should be done to understand whether he is guilty or not. Hopefully they'll do the same for Reznikov and many more Ukrainian officials in government, in the army, because first of all, corruption kills Ukrainian soldier on the front lines as well as the Russians do. You know, Putin tells a lot that Ukraine is being controlled by the West. Honestly, for some time I would like it to be truth. In that case, probably there would be less corruption in Ukraine. And if we check out the comments coming under the post, for example from Ukrainian Telegram group, mostly people are satisfied that the case was opened. Is Donald Trump involved here? Does he push Ukrainian government for reforms? Because recently somehow Zelensky did kind of the outstanding decisions, unusual decisions, and there are some of the corruption cases open against the Ukrainian officials. Who knows, maybe Donald Trump is watching my videos. Yeah, it's just a joke. Yeah, it's just a joke. Slovak Prime Minister Fico probably thinks that he is the top leader in the world. He blackmails Ukraine openly with the Russian gas. Ukraine should open the transit of the Russian gas, otherwise we're gonna block everything for Ukraine. Well, go for it, Fico. We're gonna see how you're gonna block something. Unusual stuff for the Russian army. This soldier who obtained some of the wounds is also handcuffed to the chain for him not to run away from the position, and Russians will send him for one more stupid attack. Yesterday, guys, we saw this video how Russians with the handcuffs are taken somewhere, so Russia treats them, their own soldiers, like an animals. By the way, about the millions of rubles which they obtain or should obtain, well, before, like several months ago, it was the usual stuff for Russia to give money right away to the Russian soldiers. But today they start to wait at least a couple of the attacks before giving out money, because usually soldiers do not live for longer. And those Russian soldiers start to complain about it, because money is the only thing which motivates them to fight. And maybe also vodka and the opportunity to loot Ukrainian towns, cities, villages. Alright guys, let's go to the front lines. We have some of the update coming from Dachne. This is Kurakhove direction, so it was yesterday. Today Russia moved, taking this tree line under control, but this movement is really small for the last 24 hours. In Andreevka, Russia also, here they moved more. You can see yesterday, today. This is the big advancement happening. Russia expands two of the bridgeheads here. But in Andreevka itself, there is just a gray zone extension. So for now, Ukraine has the way out for the army just in case. So Andreevka, Slavanka, as I showed you before, and Novo Andreevka as well. So Russia moved mostly in this part again yesterday and today. But in the other areas, it was mostly standstill. Yet the pace of the Russian attacks is slowing down significantly. Right, good news from the United States of America, from Ukraine. United States sending dozens of Patriot missiles from Israel to Ukraine. We have the report about it from Axios News. More Patriot missiles to Ukraine has become the top priority for Pentagon to help Kyiv defend against Russians' attack on critical infrastructure. Thank you so much, United States of America, for continuing to support Ukraine in its efforts to defend its territory against Russian aggression. And probably it's the only way out for Ukraine to finish this war, to have more and more weapons, and for Putin to finally realize that the war against Ukraine is just useless, because he will not be able to achieve his goal in Ukraine. And his goal is the total occupation of Ukraine as a country. There is the information in Israeli media that Donald Trump wants to withdraw American forces from Syria. Well, in that case, Turkey will go fully to Syria, and there will be a war between pro-Turkish forces, or even Turkey itself, and Kurdish forces. Here Kurds are depicted in yellow, and they're being supported by the United States of America, and if there is no support and no American warriors, I guess it will be really hard for Kurds there in Syria. Right guys, it's all what I wanted to say today. I'm gonna keep you updated on the situation in Ukraine and not only. And now please don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so you help me a lot. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time. Ciao.